Hello, hello, hello. This is Talking Manchester United, a United Stand podcast with myself, Paul Gardner, and joining me as always, is Ash Burns. Ash, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Some nice weather again. Got plenty done in the weather. Not ideal football, but yeah, overall not too bad. What about yourself?
Yeah, it was a scorcher this weekend, wasn't it?
Oh, it's lovely.
I'm a bit red, I must say. Um, yeah. So for the benefit of the people listening, we're going to gloss over Brighton.
Yeah.
We'll mention it. We'll gloss over it as quickly as possible. It's 5 days ago. It was a rubbish game. We will look forward to the West Ham and Watford games, last two Premier League games of the season. So we'll preview those two for you. We'll also take your tweets as we normally do at the end. And we'll also talk a little bit about Rashford and Martial, who both seem to be quite a hot topic in recent days, the last couple of weeks. I thought we'd dive into that, especially seeing as both of them had very good opportunity to show what they can do, to prove their worth, however you want to put it, and starting. So, Ash, let's dive into the Brighton game then. A 1-0 loss, unfortunately. A goal scored by one of the men that we picked out, Pascal Gross. Bit of a sloppy goal to concede. What were your overall thoughts on the game? You can be as brief as you like. I'm sure nobody wants to hear about it again.
I could do a one-word review, but I don't. I probably won't go that far. But yeah, obviously not great. I thought we started off fairly well. I thought the first 5 or 10 minutes we moved the ball sort of really well. I thought we were really fluid. We looked sharp. We looked to be playing the right way. And then sort of after that, I think Brighton, that first 5-10 minutes, we put on, minimal pressure, but, with holding the ball pretty well. After that, Brighton grew into the game, and that was all she wrote, really. There wasn't sort of much to write home about. I thought the forwards were just not fluid enough at all. Rashford at number 9 was dropping deep on far too many occasions. And the occasions that he did, I won't just say, he kept dropping deep. He dropped deep a lot of the time looking for the ball, obviously, and it gave us no outlet up top. But the times that he did turn and look to run behind the defence, I think that choice of midfield really hindered us going forward. I think Matic and Fellaini and Pogba, all three of them, especially Matic and Fellaini, though I thought they were extremely poor on the ball. And I think that showed on numerous occasions where Rashford happened to turn a defender, look to get him behind, and the pass to him was just not good enough, the through ball or whatever it was. So I think that hindered us a lot with that midfield. Later on, we made the changes, but far too late, in my opinion. We should have killed the game off nice and early, gone at them from the start. And it was slow, it was lethargic, there was no energy, and they just bypassed that midfield far too easily, as we've seen numerous occasions this season when we've played the likes of Matic and Fellaini. There's just no energy, and I think playing a midfield duo like that with Pogba, it impedes Pogba so much, and we know Pogba is almost a bipolar sort of player at the moment. He'll have a great game and then he'll switch off, and I think putting him in a midfield with those two, he knows he's not going to have a comfortable game. He knows he's not going to have the freedom because Matic and Fellaini haven't got the legs to cover him if he does move forward. So it was just absolute shambles from back to front, I think. I think Darmian did poorly for the goal. He was a little bit unlucky, but he still should have recovered in time. So it was just, from the first minute to the last minute, I thought, the majority of the team was very, very poor.
Yeah, well, I can't disagree there. I thought it was probably one of the most disjointed games we've played all season.
Yeah.
From pretty much from start to finish. Okay, yeah, the first 5 minutes might have been half decent, but that's been a common theme, hasn't it, really? The first 10, 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes of the game, we can play pretty well. Then we just sort of drift off. And it's quite annoying because these players, most of them will turn up in these big games or, top 6 that we played the second half of the season, we've pretty much won all those games.
Yeah.
Then there was the game against Palace, and we were 2-0 down and came back to win 3-2. Sometimes players can put in a hell of a shift and really do everyone proud, themselves, the fans, the manager. And then you get games like Newcastle, West Brom, Brighton, where they just completely disappear.
Yeah.
And the mind boggles. And I think someone's even tweeted us talking about that point as well.
Yeah.
Also in this game then against Brighton, we seen something that people have been crying out for a long time. I don't think it's the first time we've seen it this season, but we had both Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford start the game.
Yeah.
I was quite excited by that. I thought this is going to be brilliant. Those two are going to be like they've got some. Let's not beat around the bush. They have something to prove.
Yeah.
They've been rubbish all season. Don't care what anyone says. Okay, maybe that's a bit harsh, but they haven't been great. Let's put it that way. This is their third season now, I believe. Their third full season playing for United. Still not setting the world alight. I mean, before we start going into the big Martial Rashford discussion about what we think they should be doing, just give me your thoughts on their performances during that game. I mean, did you expect more from them?
Yeah, massively. Yeah. And I thought I had a funny feeling that Rashford, obviously with Lukaku, taking that knock, and I think it gives a great chance for Rashford to prove what he's worth at number 9. And as I mentioned before, he just doesn't look comfortable there. I don't know whether it's because he's continuously been played out of position of late and over the last couple of seasons. But he just doesn't look like he knows what to do on the ball. And it's so odd. I thought he was very poor. I thought his movement was poor. As I mentioned before, he dropped deep far too often. The times that he did run beyond the defence, the pass wasn't there to him. I thought his decision-making, again, as it has been, and as I've said for maybe the last year, isn't developing as it should. He's so slow on the ball. And I think you look at the likes of Jesse Lingard this season, who's improved, a massive amount. Obviously, I don't think he's still quite there quality-wise, but the amount that he's improved has been, fantastic. And I think Lingard's decision-making is so much better than Rashford's. I think that's what sort of sets him apart at the moment. I think that's why Jesse Lingard's getting more time of late then on the pitch. But apart from really I could write home about Rashford, and the same can be said about Martial. There was a few occasions where they looked to threaten, but on both of them is off. Their possession, their passing, their decision making, it just isn't there. And they're young, they've got time on their side, which they have. I'm not disputing that, but you look at some players who are around that age range. The likes of Raheem Sterling and Leroy Sané. Two wingers who've been some of the best players in the league this season and so consistent. So it's very, very frustrating. And I thought both of them had pretty horrendous games, if I'm honest. And I thought it was. I don't want to say it was refreshing, but in a way it was nice for everyone to see what a lot of us, and including both of us, have been saying for a while now, that they're not performing consistently, and when given the chance, given more than enough of a chance, they are not performing at the level that they should. So it is disappointing, and I never want to see United players perform poorly. And it just seems to be the general consensus among Rashford and Martial at the moment. It's just that they're just not doing it, anywhere on the pitch.
No, well, absolutely. And it's disappointing as well because there's so much hope for those two, particularly for Rashford, having come through the youth setup. And, he's the one that you really want to see succeed. I mean, you want to see both of them succeed, obviously.
Yeah.
So what does the future hold for them at Man United? Let me just go to the tweet that we put out. I say I'll take the brunt for this. I put the tweet out. Let me just switch to or from my Twitter account over to the Talking Man United podcast account, just so I can bring up the tweet and then just read out some of the responses. I'm just talking here just to prevent any silence while I switch. The tweet I put out was, have Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial had enough time in United shirts since their debuts? They're not just in the Mourinho era, but since their debuts, to prove their worth. Have they had enough time to prove their worth? Has time run out for them? Can United afford to wait any longer? Discuss. So it's sort of a 3-part question there, which I kind of hoped would get people thinking about it rather than just thinking we're trying to push an agenda out, which we're not.
Yeah.
So I'll just read out some of the responses. So you need people like me at Wild LDN. Laugh out loud, they're young. Stop trying to force it. See, that's exactly what I was trying to dissuade that sort of comment. They're not good enough to start. Simple. Doesn't mean you should sell them. Interesting point. Terry at Tel Saunders 7. We know Terry, writer for the website. I think Rashford would benefit from a loan spell personally. I think he needs to be playing up front on a regular basis and get some of his confidence back. Good point.
Yep.
Andrew Southwick also replied, Andrew.
Andrew.
That's not the right question, in my opinion, says Andrew. It should be, are they being nurtured and trained the proper way to enhance their skills? Because I would argue that they're not. Very interesting point. Michael Stout, they proved it under LVG. Not sure how a better, in quotation marks, better manager can't get them to perform at the same level. 2 years ago, they were the best young talent in the league. Now, not so much. Maybe hinting at Mourinho being the problem there. Siyun Olat, Rashford had a chance in the first half to pass an open goal to Martial but failed. They are both lacking psychological confidence. Athens, not at all. Time is still there. So he thinks that time's still there, and I might agree with that. We'll come to that shortly. Vin Spoodle, using the Talking Manchester United hashtag there. I like that. Nice one. Rashford is young and can learn. Martial is Martial is young and thinks he knows it all. One has an attitude we can work with. The other doesn't show any fight or passion to work with. So clearly thinking there that he's got more hope for Rashford than he has for Martial. Nasty Pro Junior, Manchester United must and have to wait for the best. So I think that's hinting, giving them some more time to develop. And then finally, Moses James, Rashford, fall victim of reckless attitude and unprofessional lifestyle. Too much talk and show on the expense of performance. No, he is reaping big from it. I'm not quite sure what I'm reading there. Maybe Moses, you could perhaps decipher that for us into this. So yeah, that's what everyone's saying about those two. But you know, what are your thoughts, Ash? Is the time running out for them at United? Is it too late for them? What are your thoughts?
Well, just to address the question, because we had a few, a lot of the comments I think were directed towards, time running out. I mean, the initial tweet was, have they had enough time to prove their worth, to show, how good they are and to improve? And I think that's what I looked at first. And for me, in my opinion, yes, they've had, plenty of time to show how good they are and how good they can be for Manchester United. Has time run out for them? I think they're still both very young. I think, what is it? Rashford's 20, Martial's 22, is it? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. For Rashford, I like the comment, who was it, about the Vince Boodle, the comment about the attitudes. And I think this is something that, has been tipping the scales for a long time. I think Rashford, he does show fight. He is willing to run for the team and put in a shift. Martial, not so much. And for me, Martial, we say he's young, he's 22. At 22, Ronaldo was winning the Ballon d'Or, winning Champions Leagues, for Manchester United. You can argue maybe he was at United a season longer. I think he was at 4 seasons before he put in that ridiculous season at 07-08.
Well, it took him into his 4th season to get double figures, put it that way.
Yeah. So it's...
And that was 17 in that season. His 4th season, he scored 17 goals. I think that's just Premier League, though.
Yeah. So, I think Martial, don't get me wrong, they're both young, they both got the time, but I think it's a really good point that Vince Boodle made about the attitudes. For me, players like Rashford, you can only see it in the summer. He put in the work. He bulked up for the Premier League. To deal with the more physical aspect of the game. For me, Martial, I know that's his persona, and he comes across as cool, calm, and collected and whatnot. But for me, the difference between him, I don't want to keep comparing it to Ronaldo because they're completely different players. But they're around about the same age when they were coming into their prime at United. And the difference with your Ronaldos and maybe your Rashfords is they want to be the best and they want to do everything they can to be at the top. And for me, Martial, he doesn't convince me of that. I might be completely wrong. I don't see him every day in training. I don't see what his personal life is like. So this could be completely off. But on the face of it, he does look like his heart's maybe not in it as much as maybe it was when he first came to the club. Obviously, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions this season, I don't think we should sell him. I think he's still got quality. He's still got talent. Is it the system? Is it the manager? I don't know what it is. But for me, at the moment, he's not doing enough on the field at all. I mean, he's played 44 times for Manchester United this season, 11 goals, I think, something like that. He's had 30 appearances in the Premier League. So, to say that he's not getting the game time, he is getting the game time. And he started off really well, but again, that could, boil down to, was he coming on late when defenses were tired and whatnot? But he's got the talent to do more, and he doesn't. And I think Rashford, as much as he tries and the mentality that he's got, I just don't think he's developing mentally quick enough. I've said for over a year, his decision making is very, very poor. We've not really seen an improvement in that. Yes, he'll give us flashes of brilliance like he did in the Liverpool game where he was superb, but I don't see that enough. And they're so inconsistent. It is frustrating. And for the game the way it is now, and for the job that Mourinho has got, and all the pressure that obviously is on him and the media, can he afford to go another season playing these two consistently in the first team as much as he had played? He's 49 games for Rashford, 44 games for Martial. Can he continue to give players who are that inconsistent, continuous time on the pitch? For me, I don't know. I'm stumped. But if we were to bring in, better wide players, more consistent wide players, then I should say I wouldn't be against it, because time is not. I don't want to say it's not on Mourinho's side, but the pressure's building. Even though he's made massive improvements with us this season, he's always going to be under pressure, and I think the pressure to perform has never been more. So if he wants to bring in more experienced, more consistent players, so be it. But yeah, time is ticking down, I think.
It is an interesting discussion. A lot of Man United fan sites and other podcasts have all been having this discussion. I admittedly haven't listened to any of them. I don't have the time to, unfortunately. Even the United stand, Mark wouldn't like to hear this, but I don't get a lot of time to watch the videos there either. But in my opinion, have they had enough time? Yes. I think they have. I think they've played a lot. Like when we're talking about Ronaldo, and I know it's a silly comparison, but when you look at his first few seasons, he wasn't playing week in, week out. And when you think back then, we always had an abundance of talented backup when it came to strikers. It was like Tevez, Berbatov, Rooney, Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we were playing one up top or two up top, there was always an abundance of people, talented players as backup. So Ronaldo didn't have that pressure to perform week in, week out. The difference now is when you look at Martial, the front three, there really aren't that many options. Now you could reel off a name of like 5 or 6, but in that 5 or 6, you're going to include Lingard and Mata. Now for me, they aren't natural attackers that play in the front three. Mata is a natural number 10, and I think Lingard is probably better off playing in that number 10 role as well. Or behind the attackers. I don't think either of them naturally fit into a front three, so you could take them out straight away. Then that leaves you with pretty much Martial, Rashford, Lukaku, and Sanchez. Am I missing anyone out?
I don't think so from there. No, that's pretty much it, isn't it?
In the front three, you've got 3, and then 1 extra one.
Yeah.
So I think back then you were able to sort of ease a player in, and them not have so much pressure. So this could be a huge factor on them, is that they one of them usually has to play.
Yeah.
Recently we've not seen that so much. Recently we've seen both of them on the bench, and then you've got Lingard and Mata playing there, but that's not an ideal situation. And I kind of hoped that with them both sitting out recently and then both starting, I thought we might see something from them. We didn't.
Yeah.
But have they had enough time? Yes, they've had enough time to prove their worth. Has time run out for them? I'm going to say no. And that's because at the moment, it's because of what I've just said. We don't have a lot of backup, essentially.
Yeah.
Other than those two and Sanchez, there isn't really anybody else, who can play in that role and perform at a very high level.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why I think we have to give them more time. Because Jose's already said he's not going to bring in another attacker in the summer. That remains to be seen, obviously. and he has said that there are young players that he wants to develop. So you never know. That could be the likes of Rashford and Martial. You just don't know that. It might even be Gomez. He might come in and play in the front three. Although I didn't think he was a front three player. I thought he was a midfielder, to be honest.
Yeah,
An attacking midfielder. But no, I don't think time's run out for them. Not playing for United. I mean, whether they'll be playing for us next season, one of them, I don't know. One idea that's been thrown around quite a lot is that one of them to go out on loan, Rashford.
yeah,
I think he should go out on loan, because you look at all the United players that have come through the youth system over the years. 99% of them go out on loan spells, sometimes 3 or 4 loan spells before they eventually get dumped into the first team.
yeah,
You know, you just got to look back. You don't need me to reel off names. The players that come through the youth setup, they tend to go out on loan. Lingard Digate is one of them. He went on about 5 or 6 loan spells, I think.
Yeah.
You know, develop, learn their trade, develop their game, come back a much stronger player. And then I think that will benefit him to do that. He's still young. He can go out there, get some game time. Martial, I don't want him to go, because although for me, he is the most frustrating player we have, and he frustrates the living hell out of me. I know what he's capable of. Yeah. I want to see that come through. But I just think that he should be kept for another season.
Yeah.
To prove that, especially if we don't bring anybody in. If we don't bring any more attackers in, we can't really afford to lose any of them.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Really. I think in a nutshell, don't sell either of them. Loan Rashford out, because he's not going to play regularly at all at number 9, I don't think, which is where he should be playing. Loan him out. I don't know if you feel the same about a loan period for one or both of them.
Well, I think it was last season that I said it'd be interesting to see Rashford go out on loan, because I can't remember who said the comment, but I think, getting him a loan spell, at a decent Premier League club, consistently playing up front. To be honest, I can't see it happening, because with everything that surrounds Rashford now, and as high profile as he is, and I think a lot of onus will be on him in the World Cup. I think for being one of the players who can provide pace and stretch defenses, I think it's gonna he's gonna have a big focus on him in the summer. So for a player like him, he played so many matches for United for the last couple of seasons, for him to go out on a loan spell, it could be a little bit insulting towards him. I'm not saying that, but I'm thinking a lot of people will view it that way. Personally, I think it'll do him the world of good to get him out there. We haven't got an abundance of attacking players at Manchester United at the moment in the areas that we need. So if Mourinho was to bring in a few wingers, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Same goes for Martial, but I really can't see it happening. Because I think they've, as you rightly said, they weren't sort of eased in. They were thrown into the limelight, and they've built themselves up. And I think so much, media focus is on them and has been on them for the past couple of years. I think it'll almost be, I don't want to say career suicide, but as much. And I think it'll be very insulting and degrading to the players. Obviously the media will portray it as that. So I don't think it'll happen, but I do think it would do, especially Rashford. I think it'd do him the world of good if he was to go out on a loan and play somewhere consistently, but can't see it happening.
No, you're probably right. It probably won't happen, but I just think it's a shame, because so many players do that. And what game was that I was watching? It was a Man United game I watched a little while ago on BT Sport, and Harry Redknapp was doing some punditry. He was pitch side with I forget who else was there. I think Frank Lampard was there as well. And it was when Harry Redknapp just looked like he wanted to go. It was quite funny to watch. But they were talking about Rashford and Martial then, and Harry Redknapp was saying, "Look, send the kid out on loan, get him playing some real football.
Yeah,
let him develop himself." Which is exactly what I agree with that 100%. I think any player who comes through the youth setup, especially at a big club like Man United, because let's be honest, at Man United, at least 7 or 8 of your first 11 should be top or world-class players.
Yeah.
If you want to be competing, that level.
Yeah.
Competing for Champions League trophies, Premier League titles. You've got to have that sort of level in your team.
Yeah.
So as a youngster, you have to expect that. You have to expect that you might not, or you probably won't come through 19, 20, 21, whatever, straight into the first team.
Yeah.
You will go out on loan. And that is normal. That is normal. So when people get up in arms, oh, why would you send him out on loan? He's top quality. Because he's a kid.
Yeah.
He's not going to get many minutes. Send him out on loan. But again, then comes the point that we don't have a lot of players that we can play in that position. There's like a bit of a catch-22. We know what's right for the player. We know what we should do. Because we don't have those extra players, it's adding to the pressure on them that they have to perform. So I don't know. That could be a huge factor in why they're not performing so well. It's just one man's opinion.
Yeah, that's it.
Anything else you want to add to that whole Martial Rashford? There wasn't a long discussion, but I think so many people have been discussing it now, and you don't want to go on too much.
No, that's it. There's only so many times we can say the same things, and I think I think we do it every week anyway. We give our opinions on Martial and Rashford, and what we think. So I don't think there's anything additional to add, but yeah, it's one of those that's always going to be thrown up, for discussion. I think, especially when they're performing how they are at the moment, I think it's always going to come into question. So yeah, nothing further from myself.
Fair enough. Let's throw it out to you guys listening then. What are your thoughts on? Obviously, we've had some tweets from you. But what are your thoughts on Rashford and Martial? Do you think we should retain both of them? Do you think one of them or both of them should go out on loan? Or do you think one or both should be sold? Let us know what you think. You can tweet us at United Stand Pod, or if you are listening on YouTube, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think. I'll tell you what. Just from looking through Twitter, looking at people's comments on Martial and Rashford, in particular Martial.
Yeah.
Rooney debate of a few years ago, because let's be honest, Rooney did divide opinion quite. The polarity was quite unreal. Either you hated him or you loved him. We're seeing exactly the same sort of thing now with Martial. We know what happened with Rooney.
Yep.
So let's move on from that then. Let's look ahead to West Ham as the next game, isn't it? Thursday night.
Yep.
Unusual for Premier League games on a Thursday night, but still.
It is.
Away at West Ham. So over to you then, Ash, for the preview.
Yeah, it's West Ham, 15th in the league. A tough away match, I'm sensing anyway. I mean, we came into that Brighton game, feeling fairly confident, and it was another one of those that that was just a complete throwaway of a game. You look at their recent form, a 2-0 win at Leicester, then a 4-1 defeat to City, a 4-1 defeat to Arsenal, 1-1 draw with Stoke, and a 1-1 draw with Chelsea. And they're in sort of a little bit of weird form. They started the season not great, and then they've picked it up sort of the second half of the season, putting in some decent performances and looking more solid. And they've only failed to score in one of the last 12 games, which is quite an interesting stat. I mean, we looked at Brighton and said that they were scoring goals, but West Ham, I think, causing more of a goal threat, and they're actually scoring against the bigger teams as well. That 1-1 draw at Chelsea, they got a goal against City and Arsenal. So we know they're going to pose a goal threat. Can you see them troubling us, especially going away to what's that ground called now? Is it the Amberlin? I can't even remember what it was called.
Used to be the Berlin Stadium.
That's it. Berlin Stadium. Yeah. Can you see them causing us problems?
Wow. I said no against Brighton, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I think West Ham they haven't been a better team, but on paper, you look at their team and than what they are.
Yeah.
The last time we played them back in August, 4-0 victory, a couple of goals from Lukaku, Martial and Pogba also getting on the score sheet, Rashford with a couple of assists. It was a time when we were brushing teams aside, if you remember.
Lovely,
week in, week out. It was a very nice, a very good part of our season, but that seems like a long time ago now. And as you rightly say, the West Ham's form over their last sort of 6 games has been a bit mixed. Won a couple, drew a couple, lost a couple. They've leaked a lot of goals against Arsenal and Man City. I don't. But they kept the two games they won. They kept clean sheets. It's just they're very mixed at the moment. So I just couldn't tell you which way it's going to go. I think we'll win.
Yeah.
Purely because I think we need a reaction after that Brighton game, and I think we might get it. But yeah, I don't. I do see them causing us problems. I'm not going to lie. I think it's going to be a close game. Just because you just don't know what United is going to show up anymore.
Yeah.
You have no idea. It doesn't matter what the 11 is that gets put out. You just don't know who's going to turn up.
I'm hoping that we will get a reaction, as you rightly said. I'm hoping that we've looked at that Brighton game and realised the mistakes. I mean, we've said this a lot this season. Again, we keep repeating ourselves, but I'm hoping, Jose and the team will look at that performance and see where they went wrong, especially in that midfield, because we can't go away to a team like West Ham, who are, struggling. I won't say they're fighting, but, they're still in the mix. They still got something to prove. So I'm hoping that we can, approach the game with a little bit of tenacity, some speed in midfield, and hopefully deal with the problems that they do sort of, pose against us. I mean, looking at the danger men, always try and write 5 names down. It was easier for this one than it was for Watford, I'll be honest. But the 5 names I got down is Marko Arnautovic. I think on his day, he's a very good player, very physical, quick and direct. Number 2, then, Mr. Chicharito. It seems odd looking at him again in another team. We all know about what he can do. Andy Carroll I've got down as well, just for the sheer brutality of the man and his ponytail. Obviously, he can cause problems. And then I've actually got João Mario down on loan from Inter, and I watched him Inter a few times when he was there, and he's a decent player. He's nice on the ball. He's really good at creating things and looking between the lines. So him I've put down as well. And I've also got Lanzini.
Who did you say just then? Sorry, before Lanzini?
João Mario.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry.
João Mario and Lanzini. I think João Mario and Lanzini, they're the types of players that we haven't done particularly well against, over the season. They're quite nimble, they're quite agile, and they're very technically gifted. They can find a pass, they can, split a defense. So they're the 5 I've got down. You got any differences, any similarities?
I have 4
okay.
similarities there. Arnautovic, Hernandez, Lanzini, and Cresswell.
All right, yeah.
Arnautovic and Hernandez, obviously because of their goal scoring abilities, they haven't scored loads of goals, but then again, nor is Pascal Gross for Brighton, but we did pick him out as someone who could potentially cause us some problems, and he did.
Yeah.
So Arnautovic, obviously 10 goals, pops up with assists as well, 5 assists. Hernandez, 8 goals, although I don't think he starts many games anymore.
No.
I think Arnautovic is usually preferred as the main striker with 2 attacking midfielders playing behind him. Lanzini, mainly because he pops up with dot assist, as does Aaron Cresswell.
Yeah.
Cresswell and Lanzini, good passers of the ball. They can create something. So again, like Pascal Gross and Glenn Murray, if they get a chance to link up with the strikers, they could cause us problems.
Yeah.
They don't do it that often at all. So I would expect us to be able to create a lot more opportunities. And like I said, it just depends on what United turn up. If we get a half-decent performance, we should be okay. Those are the 4 players I've gone with.
Yeah. I think it's spot on what you say about, it depends what United will turn up. And I think a lot will depend on our front line, because we saw that front line against Brighton and it just wasn't consistent enough. It was so disjointed. No one really looked as if they knew where they were supposed to play. Can you see us making changes and some of the bigger figures coming back? So maybe Alexis Sanchez coming back into the team to give us a bit of experience and quality there?
Yeah, I think after the Brighton game, and with this being our penultimate game of the Premier League season, I do think we'll see a full strength 11, essentially, or as close to that as you can get with the players that are available. Did you want me to do my lineup, or?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so just for the benefit of everyone listening, in case you missed it last week, me and Ash are going to start doing a little head-to-head, and for these lineups, we're going to do predicted lineups and go head-to-head against each other. So we started that last week. So did you just want to go over how many players you got right, Ash?
Yeah, last week for the Brighton game, I went for De Gea, Valencia, Jones, Lindelof, and Shaw, Matic, Herrera, Pogba, Mata, Rashford, and Martial. I got De Gea right. I got none of the back four right, which was interesting. Matic and Pogba, and then I got the front three of Mata, Rashford, and Martial correct. So that gave me 6 out of 11.
Excellent. So, with mine then, I went, let's make sure I've got the right screen here. Brighton. It was Brighton, wasn't it? So, in goal, I went David De Gea.
Yep.
I got one right there. Valencia, right back. Wrong.
Yep.
Smalling, yes. 2.
Yep.
Lindelof, nope. Shaw, nope. Matic, yeah. 3. Pogba, yes. 4. Herrera, nope. Martial, yes. 5. Ooh. Sanchez, nope. Then I put Lukaku, no. So I only got 5. So you won that one last week.
Close one. Close one.
Yeah. So you're winning, Ash. 1-0 to you. 1-0 to
Hey,
you.
I'll take that.
1-0 to you. So back to West Ham then.
Yeah.
So my team, my prediction for West Ham. Make sure I've got the right screen.
Yep.
My 11 against West Ham. This is probably as full strength as you can possibly get, and I think that this is the team that Mourinho will pick. I'll be surprised if you've got anything different, to be honest, but you might do.
Okay.
So, De Gea in goal.
Yeah.
Young and Valencia left and right back.
Yeah.
Lindelof and Smalling in the middle.
Okay.
Midfield 3. Matic, Pogba, and Herrera.
Yeah.
And then the front 3: Sanchez, Rashford, Lingard.
Yeah. So it's pretty much identical to mine, but instead of Lindelof, I've gone for Phil Jones at the back.
He's injured, isn't he?
Is he injured?
Yep.
I don't know. He is injured.
So.
All right, I'll go for Marcus Rojo then, just to make it different.
Go on, and I'll let you have that. As long as you don't pick the same as me.
No. So I'll go Marcus Rojo just to make it interesting.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right.
There we go.
So yeah, it could be a winner next
So
week.
it all depends on Marcus Rojo or Victor Lindelof.
It does.
Interesting.
But like I said to you just before we started recording, with us doing predicted lineups, they're going to be very close each week, so it could get very interesting.
Yeah. Prediction then.
Yeah, prediction. You want to go first?
I've gone for 1-1.
I was thinking that, but I just think we're going to get a reaction from them.
I hope you're right.
Especially with because Mourinho would not have been happy.
No.
He would not have been happy. It was quite clear after the game he wasn't happy. We had a reaction last time this happened.
Yeah.
So I think we'll get a reaction. I'm going 2-1.
Okay.
I'm going 2-1.
Good. I hope it is. I hope we do get the win.
On to
Marvellous.
Watford then.
Yeah, on to Watford. So it could be a similar game to the West Ham game, both around the same, position in the table. Watford a couple of places above them in 13th. I think a massive factor, with this game is obviously it's at Old Trafford, last game of the season. Last chance, to put a stamp on this Premier League season in front of United fans. And I'm hoping this is going to be a lot more positive than we've seen, in the last couple of weeks. Looking at Watford's form, they had a very good 2-1 win against Newcastle just recently, and then a 2-0 loss to Spurs, a 0-0 draw at Palace, a 1-0 loss to Huddersfield, and a 2-1 loss to Burnley. So quite poor form coming into that game before the Newcastle game. Can you see him threatening us? Again, it's similar to that West Ham game. Can you see us having any trouble? Do you reckon it could be, a bounce back against West Ham and then maybe reverting to our old self against Watford?
Well, against Watford, I think it'll be another game where we see some changes, a bit of a mix-up, because it's only a few days after that we play the FA Cup.
It's the weekend after, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's the Saturday. This is on the Sunday, and the FA Cup's on the Saturday following, isn't it?
Oh, so there is. Okay, so that's still quite a bit of
6
recovery
days.
time then. I didn't.
Yeah.
I should have looked at that, shouldn't I? I thought it was because these fixtures, Watford and West Ham are so crammed. I thought maybe the FA Cup was a bit sooner than that. I should have checked.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, again, I do still think there'll be some chopping and changing. I do think some players will get some rest. We might see quite a strong starting lineup, but we might see a couple of early changes just to give the players some players a bit of a breather. But I don't see any problems at home. Last game of the season, I think we should be okay. Again, it's so hard to say because you just don't know what United are going to turn up.
No.
But ultimately, no, I don't think there'll be any problems. Watford's form hasn't been great. Like you say, they've only won one of their last 6 games. It was at home against Newcastle, so it's not exactly the most difficult game in the world. Didn't score in the game before that against Spurs. They didn't score in the game before that against Palace. They didn't score in the game before that against Huddersfield. So they're not scoring a lot of goals. They're not creating much. If that vein continues, then I think we'll probably find ourselves with a fairly comfortable game again, depending on if we turn up.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Again, always looking at their danger men. I actually struggled to get 5 players down in the danger men, but I did scrape some together in the end. And knowing my luck, they'll come back to bite me. I've got actually Dale Afeo down. I don't know how much he's played and the status on his fitness. I'm not sure, but I know he's a decent player. He's got plenty of pace. Likes to play with width. Andre Gray I've got down as well. Roberto Pereira, who I think is a very good talent. And I watched him a few times at Juventus, and he was very good. I've got Will Hughes down, which is an interesting one, a youngster. And then I've actually got Aurelio Gomez as my number 5 pick. What about you?
Okay. Well, at number 1, I've got... because he is a talent. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, so I thought you were saying something then.
Yes.
Yeah, Doucouré, because he's a good talent. I think even we were linked to him a few months ago. We've been linked to a couple of Watford players over the last couple of years. It's bizarre that. But yeah, Doucouré, 7 goals, 3 assists. Again, they're not blowing the Premier League away with goals scored, but they, the attackers and midfielders are sharing the goals between them. Doucouré 7, Andre Gray 5, Richarlison, another talented player 5. Roberto Pereira 5, Troy Deeney 5. So all of those players I've got in there, all players that are capable of scoring, and all of them sharing the assists as well. So they do seem. When you look at it on paper and look at the stats, they seem like a good unit. Working for each other, all chipping in with goals, but they're not doing it frequently. And as we've just discussed here, over the last sort of 5 or 6 games, they're barely scoring any goals. So their form at the moment isn't great. So although I've got those 5 players that we've picked out, I think we should be okay. But if anything's going to happen, I reckon it's going to be from one of them, the Doucouré or a Richarlison. Troy Deeney, I wouldn't write him off either.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we all know what Troy Deeney's about, and especially depending if we put a fragile back 4 out or whatever, we know the likes of Deeney and that are just going to bully them. So yeah, interesting danger men. So how do you think we're going to approach the game? You mentioned changes. I think there's going to be changes as well. I think that FA Cup final is going to play a big part in who we put out and who we rest for the upcoming game. Who have you got then as your starting 11?
Okay, so my predicted 11 for Watford: De Gea in goal.
Yep.
I think we will see some changes in the back 4. I think Young will be rested.
Okay.
I think we'll see Shaw come in.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about this and I thought, this is Mourinho. Is he going to pick Shaw? And I'm thinking, surely he's got to give him some more minutes before the end of the season. And this will be the game, especially if he already knows that he wants Young playing in that FA Cup final.
Yeah,
he's going to want him as fit and ready as possible. And considering his age and how often he gets beaten down that line, he'll need some rest. So I reckon he might give Shaw, because you never know, Shaw might play a blinder and put himself in contention. So I think he might go with Shaw. Not because he'll think that Shaw will play a blinder, but just purely because he'll want to give Young a rest.
Yeah.
Rojo and Smalling as the centre back pairing.
Okay.
Smalling, he never looks like he needs rest.
No.
Do you know what I mean? When he's got a sprint, he sprints. Yeah. Antonio Valencia, right back. I think he'll play it right back. He might be taken off later in the game for Darmian or something like that to give him a bit of a rest. I think we'll see Matic rested because we know that his legs can go pretty quickly. I think we'll see Herrera drop back in that position because he can do a decent job at protecting the back line if needs be. With Pogba playing, because I don't think he needs any rest this season. He's had enough of that with his suspensions and injuries. McTominay, I think, will get some minutes again. I think he'll start the game in the midfield. So that's not a bad midfield. Pogba, Herrera, who are in there.
Yeah.
and then McTominay in there instead of Matic, but McTominay playing further advanced and Herrera behind. Then the front three, I think Sanchez will play. Again, he might come off later in the game for Martial, or, early on in the second half to give Sanchez a bit of rest for the final. You might see the same as Pogba as well. He might come off a little bit for a bit and Fellaini start. Fellaini come on, and then Mata on the right, and then Rashford up top.
Interesting.
I bet you've
Very
gone
interesting.
different.
Well, some similarities and some differences. I've gone for David De Gea in goal, obviously. I've actually gone with Shaw, Rojo, and Smalling as that three. So exactly the same as you, but I've actually put Darmian at right back. Again, just, you rightly said about Shaw and Young, giving Young a rest. I think he might give Valencia a rest for that FA Cup final as well, because hopefully going into that, we get the win against West Ham, and I think it puts us in good contention to finish second, so he might give some rest. I've gone with Herrera and Pogba in the midfield as well, but I've put, instead of McTominay, I've put Fellaini there. We all know what Mourinho's like with Fellaini, so that'll be interesting. And then a front three, I've also gone with Sanchez, I've gone with Rashford, but I've gone with Martial instead of Mata.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's my front. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Go on then, what's your prediction?
I'm going 2-0 United.
Knew you'd say that. Okay, I'll go 3-0 then, just to be really optimistic.
You can go with that as well. You're going 3-0.
No, that's all good. Yeah, I'll go 3-0. Going to be positive. We're gonna open things up before the FA Cup final. Good.
Excellent. Do you want to take it over to Twitter then?
We can indeed, yeah. Going to be an interesting one because we've had quite a few replies on this. So I don't know if we've got time to go through them all, but we'll get as many as we can in. So as usual, recording this week's podcast, what would you like us to discuss? Let's have a look. So Mr. Sander Seegers, he says, going into the transfer window, Jose said that he'll of course strengthen the squad, but he wants to promote youth. How true do you think this is? And if it is true, which players do you think he's talking about?
Say that again, sorry. You dropped out a little bit then.
Oh, sorry. So going into the transfer window, Jose says he wants to strengthen the squad, but he also wants to promote youth. How true do you think this is? And if it is true, which players is he talking about?
I do think it's true. I think it's been true for the last 2 years. There has been players coming through. I mean, Rashford's still part of the setup. McTominay's come through. What we need to understand is that it's not always going to be like the class of '92, where 6 players come through at one go. That happened once all those years back then. It hasn't happened since. So I don't see why people have to be up in arms about it now. It only has to be 1 or 2. At the moment, we've got that. So it definitely is happening. He has brought in young players as well as experienced players, which we discussed last week. Which players do I think he means next season? Couldn't tell you, but I would like to see maybe Gomez given some more game time to help with the in the midfield, or maybe in the front three. He might even play in the front three. I've got no idea, but I think maybe Gomez, because he was given his professional contract this year, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I believe, or end of last season, whenever it was. But I think he could be a player we might see. But again, it could just be the likes of Martial, Rashford, and McTominay. Rashford and McTominay pretty much are still youth. Rashford's only 20. McTominay is what, 21?
Yeah,
I
think he is. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it could be a couple of the players that already are here. There might even be 1 or 2 graduates come through you've set up in the summer. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, it's. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, you look at there's been a few professional deals that have been signed. I think in the Manchester United ranks. I can't remember, and I'm even gonna have a look now. You got to look at Dylan Levitt signed his first professional contract. There was a few in January. Also, I think George Tanner was one of them who signed a professional contract at United. So you could see a few fringe players. Like Jose has done with McTominay. You might see a few surprises come through, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe the likes of Gomez come through. I still think it's a little bit early for Chong, even though a lot of hype is about him. But I think
I think it's still way too early for both of them.
Yeah,
like I said, I'm a huge advocate of loaning players out.
Yeah,
but again, it just depends on the depth. Like years ago, we always had fantastic depth in quality. We just haven't got that at the moment.
Yeah, I think the players that he's looking at maybe a Rashford and McTominay again. I think he plans to develop them and promote more and give them more game time, especially McTominay. I think he's been a mainstay in the first team squad for a while now, and I think we'll see him get more game time. Providing that he does improve and he continues to develop his game, I think he'll get more game time. Maybe in place of Nemanja Matic, as his legs start to go. We could see him play less and McTominay come in and play that similar position because he's got sort of those qualities and traits that Matic has got. I think he just needs the experience and, to develop his mentality a little bit. But I think for me, probably McTominay, Rashford, maybe one or two others that get promoted.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okie dokie. So moving on, Ike Yaguala. Apart from improving the team, should Jose be looking to improve his backroom staff just like Sir Alex did every now and then? Ooh, interesting question.
I don't know really. I've not once heard of any problems with any of the backroom staff. Not like when Moyes took over and they were all sort of replaced with his bunch. Only then did we really hear of some sort of unrest, if you want to call it that. Or shock that he did that. But I think since Mourinho's taken over, I've not heard any rumblings of any discontent with any of the backroom staff. So I don't really think that's an issue.
I think there was only that one incident with Rui Faria. I can't remember what game it was, but he gave wrong instructions to Pogba or something. I think that was the only time we've ever heard anything about that backroom staff. But for me, I don't really want to see any backroom staff changes because, in my opinion, we've had enough changes with the Moyes era and the LVG era and whatnot. I think Mourinho has brought in the right people who he trusts and he's worked with before. And I think those backroom staff being at the club for as long as they have been now, they're only going to develop a deeper understanding and gel better with the squad. So for me, I don't want to see any backroom changes. It's Mourinho, though. We don't know what he could do, but I don't think he'd be looking to bring anyone in or get rid of anyone. So I think the more consistent we can benefit the team better.
Absolutely.
Soccer as we like it. Has the youth policy of Man United completely collapsed? It's an interesting one.
No, not at all. And I'm just going to repeat what I said literally 2 minutes ago. That, again, just because we're not seeing several players coming through at one time and all being given 20 games a season, doesn't mean to say that the youth setup is falling through. Absolutely not. Look at our under-18s, for example. They've just won their league.
The league, yeah.
Or the under-23s, okay, they haven't been doing so good. I think did they not finish near the bottom of their league or something? It wasn't a great first season for their new manager. I forget what his name is now. But there is some talented players in that team.
Yeah.
And so no, I don't think the youth setup's gone to pot or whatever it was the guy said. I just think there's too much emphasis on it, and I think that comes from that whole not debate. It was never a debate, but that whole thing about Mourinho doesn't promote youth, and that was one of the reasons why people didn't want him joining the club. So of course, the youth setup then became this whole big thing, this whole big focus. And I think it's just been blown way out of proportion. Let's give Jose time to build his squad, and then let's see what he does with the youth. Because his first objective will be to get us back playing in the Champions League regularly, fighting for finals in the Champions League, fighting for titles. That'll be his primary objective, to get us back at that status, that level again. And that might mean bringing in quite a lot of experienced, top quality players, and then thinking about the youth afterwards. As long as he keeps that tradition of having a youth player in the match day squad, then I think he's doing fine. Give him a few seasons. You know what I mean? Let him do what he's got to do to get us back to where he should be, and then see what he does with the youth. I mean, there's been some encouraging words coming from him, like you pointed out just a moment ago, Ash, that next season that's what he wants to do. A combination of bringing players in and developing youth. That's what we want to hear. Now he might just be saying that. I don't know. But he's had 2 seasons now to bring in players that he wants to bring in. He will bring some more in the summer. But yeah, it'll be getting to that time now soon where we will need to start seeing some more development for our youth players. But again, another thing we have to keep in mind as well, we can't just bring them through for the sake of bringing them through. They have to be good enough. You know, there's been hundreds of youth players that have come through our setup, hundreds and hundreds, all through the Ferguson era, that didn't make it United. They all came through and they were sold on because they simply weren't good enough. And that's going to keep happening. That's not going to stop.
Yeah.
You know, one might shine through every now and again, but we have to understand that just because this youth set has been blown out, it's been blown out of proportion for me. The whole thing about it. There's no problem with the youth setup at the moment in my eyes.
I mean,
it's not being forgotten about by Mourinho. There's evidence of that. I just think it's been blown way out of proportion.
Well, I completely agree, and I think it's massively been blown out of proportion. And I think you only have to look at some of the statistics and some of the numbers around the youth setup around Manchester United. I mean, I think United are in the top 3 or top 5 in the league of amount of minutes been played by academy graduates, I think. And what are the team in the top 6 can you say that have had 3 or 4 academy graduates consistently in their first team throughout the season? None of them, in my opinion. I mean, you look at the likes of Lingard, Rashford. You look at McTominay, has been a mainstay, as I mentioned before, in the first team. So none of the top 6, in my opinion, have done it to that extent consistently. Yes, you might see a player popping in and out, but for the most part, I think Mourinho has done a very good job, especially with the batch of players that he has got. To develop and sort of mold the youth and introduce them at the right times, in my opinion. So, no, I don't think the youth setup is dead by any means. And I think, as you said, with the under-18s, I think we've got some very, very good players, coming through, some solid players as well. Maybe they'll go out on loans, maybe they'll play some cup games, but no, it's definitely not dead. And as you rightly said, you only have to look at the under-18 squad for that.
I think we'll do one more question then, because we have gone on for quite a while.
Okay, so we'll go with Mike Zoltan at mzoltan9. He's given us 2 questions. He says he's a big fan of the club, lives in the States. Any books or movies, other suggestions so you can learn more about the club? I will come to that, but then we'll just go to this one. Which player do you feel has surprised you the most this season with their performance, and one that's underachieved? So one overachiever and one underachiever, and I quite like that question.
That is a good one. I think overachiever, you have to say Jesse Lingard, because when you think back to it was shortly before Christmas, wasn't it, when he was performing really well, and I said, this is only going to be a few games. Well, he sort of continued along that line for the majority of the season. I mean, he was better towards the beginning of the season, and he has sort of tailed off as the season's gone on. But I think for him as a whole, over the whole marathon of the season, I think he's the overachiever of the bunch. Purely because not really any of them have got majorly achieved. I suppose you could argue Lukaku. First season at a huge club, bagging 20 plus goals. That's after a month of a barren spell. Imagine if he didn't have that barren spell, he could be hitting 30.
Yeah,
could be saying Lukaku. So you could say either of those two. Underachiever. I think you can't really say Pogba. I mean, in a way, he has underachieved.
No.
But he has still produced some magic for us, and he is up there with the assists, and he has scored a few goals, and he has played some blinders of games. So I think it'd be a bit unfair to say. I mean, look, let's be honest. He has underachieved, hasn't he? I mean, we do expect a lot more from him, especially in these games. But a lot of the players have underachieved. So I think I'm going to say, as a collective, the whole squad really has underachieved this season. I think it's unfair to pick on one player when you consider the state of the squad.
Yeah. I like this question. It's good. I think overachiever. I think you've got to go with Jesse Lingard, and I think it speaks volumes to the fact that I was not a Jesse Lingard fan by any stretch last season, the season before, whenever it's been, and at present, I'd have him every day of the week in the team over the likes of Rashford and Martial, just because how he's played and his overall game and the way it suits the way we play. So for me, he's got to be an overachiever. I think Lukaku, it could be argued, 27 goals or whatever it is. But I think we knew the quality that he had coming into this. Underachiever, again, it's difficult. I don't want to say Pogba. He's done all right. You could say, Martial, Rashford, they could be thrown in the mix as well. But
yeah, I can't believe I didn't mention them. But like I said, the whole team really, as a collective, have underperformed.
I think. Do you know what? The biggest? I'm gonna say it because why not? The biggest underachiever of the season is consistency. I'll say that. Why not? Consistency. He plays at number 67. That's what I'll go for. Yeah, consistency has been our biggest underachiever. And then just to say, he also mentioned that he wanted some, wants to learn more about the club, and I think that's brilliant. From the States, I did actually pull up some things that might help. So some books and things. I think the Alex Ferguson books. His biography, I think Leading is the other one that he wrote. Obviously fantastic insights to our most successful manager. I think looking at things like United, the Busby years, I think there's some really good insights in how the club was run, back then and bringing through the success. So have a look online. There's so much stuff. Obviously, the internet is you can get everything everywhere. But things like that, I think, will help understanding more of the history of the club and things like that.
Amazon is probably the best place to look, really. If you get on there and just make sure you read the reviews. Just search Man United, and then you can choose your category, books, DVDs, or whatever. Yeah, just make sure you look at the reviews and who the publishers are, just so you can gauge it's the accuracy of the material you're looking at. But yeah, what fantastic! Good to see fans from all over the world, wanting to learn about the club's history.
Yeah,
what makes Man United Man United. So yeah, thank you for that. That's brilliant.
Exactly, marvelous. I mean, that's it.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there then.
Yep.
So thank you all for listening. If you're still with us, let us know what you think on the Rashford and Martial situation. You can tweet. Ash, do you want to give your details first?
Yeah, it's at Ashboyo, ASHBOIO. That's it.
You can tweet myself as well, or follow me. It's at Paul Garden LP, and also the podcast Twitter account, which is at United Stand Pod. Drop us a tweet. Let us know what you think of the podcast. Give us your thoughts on the Martial and Rashford situation. How you think what you think their future holds for them. And also let us know what you think about the Watford and West Ham previews. What players would you like to see given a chance? Do you think there should be lots of rotation, some more auditions for the final perhaps? Or do you think the lineup is likely to be already picked in Mourinho's mind, considering what he saw against Brighton so close to the FA Cup final? So let us know what you think. If you are listening on YouTube, drop us a comment below, drop us a like, hit the subscribe button. We put a podcast out every week when we can. It is pretty much every week now. I know we've been pretty consistent over the last sort of 6 to 8 months. So get involved, essentially. We do put a tweet out every Monday or Tuesday if it's a bank holiday Monday. We do put a tweet out asking, for things that you want us to discuss. As you would have heard just then, we will take a handful of tweets and discuss them to keep you guys involved. We do enjoy the interaction. While you're on YouTube as well, look up VanCam. We do plug this every week because we love it. It's brilliant. Kev Ashford, who was on here with us a couple of weeks ago. So get over there, search VanCam and subscribe. I think that about wraps it up. Is there anything you want to add, Ash?
I don't think so. It's just, 2 big games, and then it'll be the big one. It'll be the big podcast, I think, the start of next week.
Excellent. Yes, it will. And hopefully we'll win that final, end the season on a high. And then we've got to try and think of stuff to talk about through the preseason. Maybe we'll come up with some good ideas. Maybe there you go. Maybe you guys can start giving us some ideas of what to talk about on the podcasts during the. We'll keep wanting to say off season, but we're not in America. No. During preseason.
World Cup special.
Maybe. As long as it's not all transfers. There's nothing worse than talking about transfer rumors. Because everyone just gets frustrated about that. I do. I don't know about anyone else. But we'll wrap it up there. So thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next week.